Hello guys, welcome back to the quantity surveying workshop and to another video. In today's video, we're going to be treating how to measure for our leveling and compaction for the trench of this frame structure. So you know that we are going to be capturing for the leveling and compaction for both the column pit and for the foundation trench. So stay tuned as we dive into the video. So in order to calculate or to measure for our leveling and compaction for both the column pit and for the trench, we are not going to be doing any serious calculation here because we've basically calculated for all the measurements that we needed previously in our column pit excavation and foundation trench excavation. So I would like to take us to the working space so that we can understand this better. So it is no new thing to us that the unit for measuring our leveling and compaction is measured in meter square. So meaning that all we're just going to be needing are the areas of our column pits and that of our trench. So as for the column pit, all we can just do is to go to the place where you've measured or you've booked for your column pit excavation, get the length and the width of each of the column pits, multiply it by the number to get the total area of the particular column pit, because you know we have 5 different column pits. So what I mean is this: since you know that we have 5 different column pits and we know that the length for base type 1 is 1200, its width is 1200. So all we just need to do now is to measure the length by the width to get our area. Then we will now determine the number of base type 1 we have in the foundation trench drawing. I hope you can understand that. So if we do that, we can now do the same thing for base type 1 down to 5 and then get the summation in order to get the total area for our leveling and compaction for the column basis. So let's get right into it. So as you can see, when we're doing the column pit excavation, we've already written down all those details. So for column base 1, the dimension for the length and width is 1.2 by 1.2, and there were how many number? 5. Column base 2, 1.2 by 1.2, how many number? 11, down to column base 5. So we are going to be measuring it similarly to how we did in our column pit excavation. The only exception is that we're not going to be adding the depth, because all we need is our area. So the same way we measured it like this is the same way we're going to be measuring it for our leveling and compaction for the column pits, with the exception of the depth. So we're going to be starting with the column pit. So for column pit 1, the dimension is 1.2 by 1.2, so we'll now measure 1.20 by 1.20, and then how many in number? 5 in number, so multiply it by 5, and then we close. We'll do the same thing for column base 2, 1.20 by 1.20, and then how many in number? 11, and then we close. We'll do the same thing for base type 3, which is 1.20 by 2.296, which is approximately 2.30. So 2.30, and there are how many in number? 2 in number. So we'll do the same thing for base type 4, which is 1.20 by 2.378, which is approximately 2.38. So 1.20 by 2.38, and there are how many in number? 1. So the last one, the base type 5, which is 1.40 by 1.40, and the how many in number? 3. So what we're going to be doing now is to get their values for the squaring column. So the area for column pit 1 is 1200, or 1.2 times 1.2 times 5. So the total area for the column pit 1 will be 7.20. We'll do the same thing for column pit 2. 1.20 times 1.20 times 11 will be what? 15.84. So we'll record it. So we'll do the same thing for column base 3. 1.20 by 2.30 by 2 is what? 5.52. Then similarly for base type 4, 1.20 by 2.38, that's 2.856, that's 2.86 approximately. Then last, 1.40 times 1.40 times 3 is equal to what? 5.88. So we'll add these parameters together to get the total area for the column pit. So 7.20 plus 15.84 plus 5.52 plus 2.86 plus 5.88 is equal to what? 37.30. So this is the total area that we're going to be leveling and compacting for the what? Column pit. So the next thing, we're not going to be closing now, because leveling and compaction is not divided into column pit and trench. It is one item. So we have to get the total area for the column pit and the total area for the trench and then add them together. They are one work item. That is why we're not yet closing it here. So we have to do the same thing for the what? Trench. So for the foundation trench, all we just need to do is this. The same way we measured for the foundation trench excavation, that is the same way we are going to be measuring it here, but we are going to be accepting the depth of the foundation trench, because leveling and compaction is measured in what? Area. That's in meters square. So all we just need now is the total distance of the trench as well as the what? Width of the what? Trench. So the total distance we measured, if you can see it here, is what? 75,958.5. So when we bulk, we are going to be having what? 76.00 in meters. And then what is the what? Width of our trench? The width of our trench is what? 675. That's approximately what? 0.68 meters. So this is the length and the width. So when we do the maths, 76 times 0.68 will give me what? 51.68. And then we close. So we need to add these two together to know what is our total area for the leveling and what? Compaction. So 51.68 plus 37.30 is equal to what? 88.98. So this is this for the leveling and what? Compaction. So the next thing that we're going to be booking for is for the anti-termite treatment. So the anti-termite treatment is similar to that of the leveling and compaction. So you know that normally we are going to be spraying anti-termite treatments to both the base of the foundation trench and the sides of the foundation trench. As for the base of the trench, we are not doing any serious calculation there, because it is the same as that of the leveling and compaction, because it is in meters square. So all we just need to do now is to take this value that we've measured, it's 8.98, to our anti-termite treatment, and then calculate for the sides of the what? Trench, because that is where the main calculation will be, for the sides of the trench. We've already measured for the base, so it's the area that we've leveled and compacted that we're going to what? Spray our anti-termite treatment. So what I'm just saying is that take this dimension or this value that you've calculated for your leveling and compaction to both the column pit and the foundation trench, and then measure it as the area you will spray your anti-termite treatment for the base of the foundation. Then we're now going to go to the workstation so that we can calculate for the total area for the sides of the what? Foundation trench. So in order to calculate for the sides for our anti-termite treatment, there are two ways we can do this. The first way is we will determine the external perimeter of both the column pit and the trench together. So we're going to be finding, if this is the external, right, we're going to be finding what's the perimeter, like this, down to here, down to here, basically the sides, down to here, 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 throughout till we get back to this point, and then we'll now do the same thing internally. So you see that is going to take a long process. As when we're using Plan Swift software, it would have been easy. All we just need to do is to use the line tool and then outline it. After we outline it for both the external side and the internal side, we'll now multiply it by our depth of the foundation to get the total area for the sides of the anti-termite treatment. But we cannot do that now, if not it's going to take our time. So the second approach we can use is this. For the column bases, what we can do is to get the perimeter of each of the column bases from column base 1 down to column base 5. After we get the perimeter from column base 1 to 5, we'll now multiply them by their individual frequencies. So since we know that this column base 2, the dimension is 1.2 by 1.2. To get the perimeter, we'll see the length side multiplied by 2 plus the width side multiplied by 2. I believe that's how you get your perimeter. So we'll now be having 1200 times 2 plus 1200 times 2. And that will be 4,800. So the perimeter for column base 2 would be 4,800. So we'll now multiply it by the number of occurrences for column base 2, which we counted as 11, a number. So it means that for that 11 column base 2, the perimeter will be 52,800, which is 52.80 meters. Then after that, since you've gotten the perimeter for column base 2, you will now do the same thing from base type 1 down to 5. I hope that's easily understood. Whatever you get, you add everything together. When you add everything together, you will now multiply it by the depth of the column pits, which we calculated as 1,150. I hope you are getting me. So whatever you get, we are not going to be deducting the intersections here, because you know that we calculated for the total perimeter like this. Please listen carefully. We calculated for the total perimeter for the rectangle, but within this rectangle, we are not going to be spraying the anti-termite treatment throughout the perimeter, because there will be an opening for the trench here, another opening for the trench here. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So as you can see, the column pit has some intersections with the trench. So what we are just going to be doing now is to get the total perimeter for all the column pits, multiplied by the depth of the column pits, and then deduct all these parts here where there's an intersection between the column pit and the trench. I just hope that is understood. So with that, we can now begin our calculation. So for the anti-termite treatment, like I said before, what we've measured in our leveling and compaction is the same thing we are going to be booking here for the base of the trench, where we are going to be spraying our anti-termite treatment. So there is no need to calculate for the base again for the trench, because we've already done that in our leveling and compaction. So the main thing now that we need to calculate for is the sides of the foundation. So the first thing is to first guess the perimeters for each of the column bases. So the perimeter for column base 1, we have 2 by 1,200 is equal to 2,400. then 2 by 1200 for the width. This is the length, this is the width, is equal to what? 2400. So when you add the two of them together, what are you going to be having? 4800. So this is the perimeter for column base 1. We'll now do the same thing for column base 2. So since column base 1 and 2 have the same length and the width, we'll just put this as what is equal to what? 4800. I hope you can understand that. So the next one is what? Column base 3. So column base 3 will now be what? 1.2 by 2.296. So that's 2 by 1200, then 2 by 2296. $4592. When you add the two of them together, you're going to be having 6992. So the next one is what? Column base 4. So the dimension for column base 4 is 1.2 by 2.378. So 2 by 1200, then 2 by 2378. So when you add these two together, you're going to be having what? 7156. So this is the perimeter for what? Column base 4. So the next one is what? Column base 5. So we know that our dimension is 1400 by 1400. So to find the perimeter, 1400 times 2 is what? 2800. I'm going to be having what? 5600. So these are the individual perimeters for column base 1 to 5 for just one. So we're going to be booking them in such a way that we'll be multiplying them by their what? Individual numbers. So column base 1 are 5 in number, column base 2 11 in number, column base 3 is 2 in number, column base 4 is 1 in number, column base 5 is what? 3 in what? Number. And we know that the depth of our column pit excavation is what? We measured it as 1150. So with this, we can now start what? Booking for the what? Column pits. So what we'll now do is this. We'll now say for column base 1, we have what? 4800, that's 4.80 multiplied by what? The depth of the what? Trench, which is what? 1150. That's 1.15 multiplied by what? The number, which is what? 5. We'll now do the same thing for column base 2, which is the same thing, 4.80 by 1.15 by what? 11. Similarly, column base 3, which is what? 6992 as the perimeter, which is 6.99 by 1.15 multiplied by what? 2 in number. So the next one is what? Column base 4, which is what? The perimeter we calculated for is what? 7156, which is 7.16 by 1.15 and is 1 in number. So the next one is what? Column base 5, which is what? 5,600, the perimeter. So that's 5.60 by 1.15. And then how many in number? 3 in number. So what we'll now do now is to what? Do the arithmetic for this slot. So 4.80 times 1.15 times 5 is what? 27.6. 4.80 times 1.15 times 11 is equal to what? 60.846. That's 60.85. 6.99 times 1.15 times 2 is equal to what? 16.077, which is 16.08 approximately. Then 7.16 times 1.15 is equal to what? 8.234. Then the last one, 5.60 times 1.15 times 3 is equal to what? 19.32. So you have to add these parameters together. So when you add the 5 parameters together, you are going to be having what? 132.08. So this is the area for the column pits. So since we've gotten the area for the perimeter of our column basis as 132.08 meters, what we're now going to be doing is to deduct where there's an intersection between the foundation trench and the column pits, because that area, that intersection, there's going to be a opening. But we've calculated this area in such a way that it is for the entire perimeter of each of the column bases. But in some of them, there are some openings around the intersections between the column base and the foundation trench. So let's go to our workstation so that you can see what we're talking about. As you can see in the drawing, the premises we use to calculate for the anti-termite treatment, that's the area for the sides of the column pit. We first determine the perimeter. When we got our perimeter, then we multiply this by our depth. That will give us the area for the sides of the column pit round. Let's use this BT2 as an example. So that was the area for the side of the column pit round. But if you look at this intersection between this foundation trench and the column pit, there's an opening there for the trench. There's also an opening here. So we have to be deducting that opening, because that particular area where there's opening, there will be no need to spray anti-termite treatment there. So what we can now do is this: since we've gotten the total perimeter for our column pits, all our column pits, and we multiply this by the depth of the column pits to get the area of the sides of this column pit, what we're now going to be doing is that we're going to be minusing the point of intersection between the column pit and the trench. So since we know that the width of our trench is 675 as stated in AA, so it means that this opening here for the trench would be as wide as what? 675 mm, and the opening would be as high or as deep as the depth of the trench, which we've calculated as what? 1025. So now, since we've gotten the length and the breadth of our opening, which will give us the area for the openings, what we're now going to do is to count the point of intersection for all the column bases. So wherever there's intersection between the column base and the trench, we're going to count them. So let's count, starting from here. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5, this is 6, this is 7, this is 8, this is 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we'll now do this one here. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60. So it means that the intersections between the column pit and the foundation is 60 in number. So with this, we can now book for our deduction. So we will now deduct our openings. So we know that the width of the trench is 675, so that's 0.68, and the depth of the trench is 1025, which is 1.03. So if we multiply these two, we'll get the area for each of the openings. So we'll now multiply it by the total number of openings we have, which is 60. So when we do the maths, it's equal to 42.024. So this is 42.02. So after we've gotten this, we will now minus it from our the total area for the column base. So since we got 132.08 as the total area for our column base, for the side of our column base, then we'll now deduct 42.02. And we're going to be having 90.056, which is approximately 90.06. So this is the total area for the sides of the column pit. Then the next thing now we're going to be determining are the sides of the foundation trench. So in order to determine the area for the sides of the foundation trench, we are not going to be doing any serious calculation here because we've basically done most of it when we're determining the distance for the foundation trench in the foundation trench excavation. So we are going to be as fast as possible. So if you want to get more details about how I calculated the individual lengths of the foundation trench, then you have to go and watch the video on how we calculated or measured for our foundation trench excavation. So how we're going to be going about the sides of the foundation trench, all you're going to be doing is this: find the total distance for the trench and then multiply it by 2, because the anti-termite treatment is going to be sprayed on the two sides of the trench, as this side and this side. So when we determine the center line for this trench, we got 2,808. So it means that we are going to be spraying for this length and for this length. Both are 2,808. So our center line here will be multiplied by 2. So the essence of what we're doing now is to get the total distance for the two sides of the trench. So for this side, we calculated this distance as 2,808. So I will now multiply it by 2 to cater for these two sides. So that will give me 2 by 2,800 and what 8 will be equal to what? We'll do the math later. So we have catered for this part and what? This part. So the next one now we'll do is for what? This trench. So the next part now is for this trench line here, and we calculated the distance for this trench line to be what? 3,343. So if you look at this, when we're doing our foundation trench excavation, we said that the distance for this trench is the same thing as the distance for this trench. So since there are two sides, it means that here we're going to be multiplying what we have by 2, and we're going to be multiplying what we have here by 2. So we can now say the 3,343, we can multiply it by 4 sides, which will cater for this side, this side, this side, and what? This side. So let me mark them. This, and what? This. So we'll now what? Measure it. 4 by 3,343. So the next side we're going to be working on is this trench line here. And in our foundation trench excavation, we calculated this trench line to be what? 3,433. So, and we said that this trench line here is the same as this trench line here. It means that their lengths are equal. So we're going to be using the same approach here by multiplying. Since we know one side as what? 3,433, we'll be multiplying it by what? 4 to cater for the 4 sides, which is this side, this side, this side, and what? This side. So we've measured for here, we've measured for here, measured for this side, and we've measured for what? This side. So what? Record. By 3,433. So the next part we'll be catching for is this trench line here. And in our foundation trench excavation, we said that the length of this trench line is what? 4,030. So it means that we're going to be what? Measuring it by what? 2 sides. That's for this side and for what? This side. So what? Record. 2 by 4,030. So we've recorded for what? This side and what? This side. So the next trench line now we'll be looking at is this trench line here. So in our foundation trench excavation, the length of this trench line is what? 2,743. So we'll have to cater for this side and for what? This side. So to do that, we're going to be multiplying the trench line by what? 2 sides. So which is what? 2 by what? 2,743. So we've catered for this side and what? This side. So the next trench line we'll be looking at is this trench line here. So we determined that the length of this trench line is 2,808. So we'll multiply it by what? 2 sides, which is going to cater for what? This side and what? This side. So we're now going to what? Record 2 by 2,800 and what? 8. So we've booked for what? This side and what? This side. So the next side we're going to be catching for would be for this side. This side and what? This side. So we're told that the distance for this trench line, the length of this trench line here, that's from here to here, was given as what? 3,070.5. So we're going to be multiplying it by 2 sides to cater for here and here. So we'll now state 3,070.5 multiplied by 2. So we've catered for this side and what? This side. So the next side we're going to be catching for will be for this trench line here. And our foundation trench excavation, when we're determining the length, we got 2,808 as the length of this trench line. So we're going to multiply this by what? 2 sides. So that's 2 by 2,808. So we've catered for what? This side of the trench and this side of the trench. So the next trench line we're going to be looking for will be this trench line here. So we said that the length of this trench line, we calculated it as what? 3,740. So we're now going to multiply it by what? The 2 sides of the what? Trench. So we'll now what? Record 2 by what? 3,740. So we've catered for this part and what? This part. So the next trench line we're going to be looking at is this trench line here. And we determine the length of this trench line as 2,733. So we're going to multiply it by what? 2 for the what? 2 sides. So we'll now what? Record 2 by 2,733. So we've catered for this side and what? This side. So the next trench line we're going to be looking at will be for what? This trench line here. So we got the length of this trench line as what? 3005.5. So it means that this side will be 3005.5. This side will be what? 3005.5. So we'll now what? Record. So 3005.5 in 2 sides. So we've done for what? This part and what? This part. So what is left for the horizontal sides of the trench is this trench line here and this irregular trench line here. So let's start with what? This trench line here. So what can you see in this trench line? You can see that there's an intersection between this vertical trench and this horizontal what? Trench. And we are spraying our anti-termite treatment on the sides of the what? Foundation trench. So what we can do is this. We can determine the length of this trench here. Instead of multiplying it by 2 sides, we will not be doing that because you know that there's an opening here in this intersection between the horizontal side and the vertical side. So we have to be minusing this what? Intersection, this opening here, in order to get the length for this side here and this short extra at this side, because those are the sides that the anti-termite treatment is going to be what? Sprayed on. So now let's find this side. So the length of this foundation trench, this trench line that we got was what? 3,840. So it means that this side here, we will record it as what? 3,840. However, this side, we are going to be minusing the width of the trench from that 3,840 to get the distance for this side and for what? This side. I hope that's easily understood. So we're now going to be recording. The first side is what? 3,840. So the other side will be what? 3,840 minus what? 675. I hope you guessed that. So we've measured for what? This side and what? This side. So that is the approach we are going to be using for the sides where there's an intersection between the vertical and the what? Horizontals in the foundation trench. So the last horizontal we're going to be looking at will be for this side and for what? This side. So what can you notice now in this particular trench line? You see that the sides are not the same, they are not equal. This side here is longer than what? This side here. So what we can do is this. We can determine what is the length of our trench line from here down to this edge. So if you can determine what the length of our trench line from here to this edge, it means that that would be the same, that would be the length for this side of the what? Trench. However, this side of the trench will be what? Shorter. as we minus this excess, that's the width of this excess here. So you remember that in our foundation trench excavation, we've already determined what the length and our width of this excess is. So all we just need to go is to go to our foundation trench excavation, get the parameter for the width side, and then minus it by what? The total length of our trench. It will give us this side of the what? Foundation trench. So let's start with the what? Longer side. So to determine the longer side now, we can now determine what was the what? Length of this what? Foundation trench. So we determined that the length of this trench from here to this other side was what? 3,333. So it means that this long side will be what? 3,333. So we'll now record for that side. So for this shorter side, since we know that the length from here to this edge where there's excess is what? 3,333, we can now minus this, the width of this excess, which we determined as what? 262.5. So 3,333 minus 262.5, whatever we get is the what? Length of this side of the trench from here to this side. So we'll now what? Record it. For this other side, we will now say 3,333 minus what? 262.5. So with that, we've recorded for what? All our what? Horizontal trenches. So the next one we're going to be going for is the what? Verticals. So what I'll just be doing now is to get the values for all the horizontals that we've what? Booked for. So after getting the total values, what I'm going to be doing now is to add everything together so that I can know the total horizontal sides for the trench. So the total length for the horizontal side, we got 96,364.5. So after this, now we're going to be going to the what? Vertical sides. So we'll be starting for what? This side. So when we're calculating for the vertical trench for this trench line, we said that this trench line was the same as what? This trench line. So we got the length of this trench line to be what? 840. So we're going to be multiplying it by how many sides now? By 4 sides. That's for this side, this side, this side, and what? This side. So we'll now what? Record it. 4 by what? 840. Let me put this one verticals. So we measured for what? This side, this side, this side, and what? This side. So if you look at this foundation trench here, this side here is longer than what? This side here, because this area here will be what? Open. It will be what? Excavated. There will be an opening here. So it means that the side for this trench line at this edge will be from here down to what? Here. So now we now need to minus this spread from the total length of this trench line so that we can get the distance from this side to this what? Side. So you can see that for this trench line, they are what? Uneven. They are not equal. So to get for this side of the trench, all you need to do now is to determine what's the distance for this trench line, and we got the distance for this trench line to be what? 2,741. So it means that this side here is 2,741, this side here is 2,741, and this side here is 2,741. So we're going to be multiplying that 2,741 by what? How many sides? 3 sides. That's for this side, and what? This side. So let's record. So we've measured for this side, and what? This side. So what we are left now is for this side that is shorter. So since we got the length of this trench to be 2,741, we will now minus this spread here, and the distance from here to here is given as what? The thickness of the blockwork, which is what? 225. So when we minus that 225, that's this spread from 2,741, we're going to be having what? 2,516. So now the distance from here to here is 2,516. So we'll now record 2,741 minus what? 225. So we'll book for what? This side. So the next vertical trench we're going to be catching for will be for this vertical trench here. And we determine the length of this trench line as what? 1,797. So we're going to be multiplying it by what? 2 to cater for this side and what? This side. So we'll now what? Record 2 by 1,797. So we've catered for this side and what? This side. So the next vertical trench we'll be catching for will be for what? This small trench here and this small trench here, because in our foundation trench excavation we said that they were what? The same size. So the length of this trench line is what? 343. So it means that if this is the length of this trench line, it will be the same thing as the length of this trench line here. So what we can do now is to multiply that 343 by what? 4 sides, which will cater for this side, this side, this side, and what? This side. So we'll now what? Record 4 by 343. So we're booked for what? This side, this side, this side, and what? This side. So the next vertical trench we're going to be working on would be for this trench here, for this small vertical trench here. So the length for this trench line we calculated for in our foundation trench excavation was what? 875. So we will now be multiplying it by what? The 2 sides of the what? Trench. So we'll now see 2 times what? 875. So we've measured for what? This side and what? This side. So the next part we'll be recording for will be for this vertical trench here. So the distance or the length of this trench here is what? 3,359. So in our foundation trench excavation, we said that the distance, the length of this trench was the same as the length of this what? Trench. So we're going to be multiplying this length by what? 4 sides, which will cater for this side, this side, this side, and what? This side. So we'll now what? Record. So we've catered for this side, this side, this side, and what? This side. So the next trench we're going to be looking for will be for what? This trench line here that intersects this horizontal. So now what we need now is to determine this side and what? This side. So now we determine that the length of this trench line, this vertical trench, from this edge down to this edge was given as what? 1008.5. So it means that this side here will be 1008.5. This side here will be 1008.5. So we'll now record 2 by 1008.5. So we've catered for what? This side and what? This side. So the next one we're going to be looking for will be for what? This side of the trench. So in our foundation trench excavation, we've gotten the length of this trench as 746. So it means that this side will be 746, this side will be what? 746. So we'll now record 2 by what? 746. So we've catered for what? This side and what? This side. The next one we're going to be catering for will be for these 2 sides here. So let's start with what? this trench. So the length of this foundation trench here, as from here to here, is given as, we've calculated it as what, 520. So we're going to be multiplying it by the what, two sides of the what, trench. So we measured for this side and what, this side. So the next trench we're going to be catching for will be for this side of the what, trench. So we determined that the length of this trench from here to here was what, 620. So we multiplied by what, the two sides. So that would be what, 2 by 620. So we've scattered for what, this side and what, this side. So we are left with what, 3 vertical trenches, which is this trench here that intersects this horizontal trench, this trench here that intersects this horizontal trench, and this trench here that intersects this horizontal trench. So we're going to be catching for each and every one of them. So I've already told you the approach we are going to be using when there's an intersection. So first we have to calculate for this side. Then whatever we have here, to calculate for this side, we will minus the width of this intersection from this length. It will give us the distance for this side and for what, this side. So first let's look for what, the length of the what, trench. So the length of this trench from here to here was given as what, 3,230. So it means that this side here is given as what, 3,230. So in order to find for this side, we are going to be minusing the width of this intersection. That's the width of the trench. So we'll now book for the first side as what, 3,230. So for the second side will be what, 3,230 minus what, the width of the trench, which is what, 675. So we recorded for what, this side and what, this side. So the next one we're going to be looking for would be for what, this foundation what, trench. So the length of this trench from here to here is what, 4,127, meaning that this side of the trench is what, 4,127. So similarly, to get for this side, we are going to be minusing what, the width of our what, trench line. So we'll now what, record for the first side we have what, 4,127, and for the second side we have 4,127 minus what, the width of the excavation, which is 675. So we recorded for what, this side and what, this side. So the last vertical trench would be this vertical trench here. So let's determine what the length of this trench line will be. So the length of this foundation trench, that's this trench line here, is given as what, 3,340. So it means that this side of the trench line will be what, the same. Meanwhile, this other side will have to minus what, this intersection, that's this, the width of the what, foundation trench. So we'll now record for the first side is what, 3,340, and for the second side 3,340 minus what, the width of the what, foundation trench. So doing that, we've measured for what, all the sides of our what, foundation trench. So now let's get the values and then find the summation of everything. So after getting the summation, we have 59,409. So what we're now going to do now is we're going to add both the vertical sides and the horizontal sides together. So we'll now say summary verticals horizontals. So when we add them together, we're going to be having what, 155,773.5. So this is the total distance for the sides of our foundation trench. So the next thing now we're going to be doing is to book. So we are now going to describe it by saying anti-termite treatment to the sides and bottom of foundation trench. So the next thing now we'll do is to measure for the total area for the sides of our trench. We've gotten the entire perimeter or the entire length of the trench as this 155,773. So we'll now measure 155.77 multiplied by the depth of the foundation trench, which was 1025, which is 1.03. So when we multiply these two together, we're going to be having the total area for the sides of the foundation trench, and that will give us 160.44. So after doing this, now we are not going to be adding what we've got as our area for the sides of the trench and that we got for the area for the sides of the column pits together. So the area that we got for the sides of our column pits after we deducted our openings, we got 90.06. So we'll now be adding that 90.06 to this 160.44. And we're going to be having 250.5. So this 250.50 is the total area for the sides of our column pits and our foundation trench. So we're now also going to be adding the total area for the bottom of the trench. So for that aspect, we are not going to be doing any serious calculation, as I stated when we started the video. All we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking the area we've calculated for our leveling and compaction, and then we're going to be bringing it here. This was our leveling and compaction. We got the total area for our leveling and compaction as 88.98. So we're going to be bringing it back here as 88.98 as our bottom. So when we add these two together, we are going to be having 339.48. So this is our total area for our anti-termite treatment for both the sides of the trench and the bottom of the trench. So we've come to the end of today's video, guys. I hope you derived adequate knowledge from it. Please, if you did, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to this channel because it helps the channel grow. In our next video, we're going to be treating how to measure for the blinding to the column pits and to the foundation trench, as well as our reinforcements for the column baskets. So we'll see you in the next video.